So had Dmax on the road for 10 months now. I thought I'd just do a little video of pros, cons, what I like, don't like, things I'll change next time, like just a little update sort of thing. Overall, pretty good rig. Like, I love it. The off-road side of things now is awesome. Before, I was just braking CVs, front diffs, like actually snapping housings in half. Heaps of mates with them, just snapping tie rods and bending them every four-wheel drive. So now I can actually do some decent tracks, hit things with some pace, and it's fine. It loves it, takes it, just like a patrol. So I'll run through some pros. So as I said, so beefy steering arms. So for the patrols, you can get pretty much 1.5 inch, which is 38mm solid steel steering arm. So if you bend that, you're doing well. You pretty much bending other things with it. CVs, so because I'm running the GU front diff, GU CVs, which are massive, pretty hard to brake. Even if I was braking them, you can upgrade to chromoly ones, but I don't see the need. So just genuine Nissan CVs for now. Gear ratios, so at the moment I run the 4.1 rear Isuzu ratio in the back, which is out of a automatic RC Colorado with a 3-litre turbo diesel in it. So that's a 4.1, and for a patrol you just buy a 4.1 because they come out in 4.1s, 4.3s, 4.6s, 3.9s. There's just heaps of them for patrols, so 4.1s was a good match. It also makes the 33s drive like a standard car on standard tyres. Brake upgrades, so with the patrol, with the GU front diff, I've upgraded the brakes to the 4.8 patrol diffs, but then also put slotted and dimpled rotors on it, so it's even upgraded again. For the rear, because I run that MUX rear diff with discs, got a slotted rotor for that as well, so the brakes are actually really good, actually pulls up well. Still running the Dmax master cylinder and brake booster, which I might change later to a 4.8 style one, but I'll get into that later of why I'll change it. Springs and shock options, there's just endless options for springs and shocks for patrols. And being a patrol chassis, everything just works straight off the shelf, so pretty much pick what you want, pick your size, pick your rates, bolt it in, it's easy. Suspension upgrade options, so like all your radius arms, tie rods, drag links, panhards, just everything, just off the shelf, endless options. You can go different sizes, solid, hollow, whatever you want, just endless. Suspension travel now compared to standard is heaps more now. I think standard Dmax has about 7 inch of travel, where at the moment in the front I'm running 9 inch, which I later want to upgrade to a 10 inch, but I'll go into that later. And for the rear I'm running, it's a 4 inch lift shock, so whatever travel that gives, I think that's about 10 to 11 inch. Parts availability, so for patrols they're everywhere. You can get parts from easy, like if I needed something for this patrol related, I would have it today or tomorrow. Like, parts are everywhere, people got them in their backyards. Chassis strength, so heaps of companies now doing brace kits just for everything. So that's like your front coil mounts, your rear coil mounts, just the chassis plating, just to strengthen the chassis from bending, just endless. For patrols, there's just the aftermarket range for patrols is just crazy. Another thing with the width, so standard, a Dmax comes out 1860 millimeters wide, a patrol comes out at 1840, so the Dmax being wider from factory actually accommodated the front diff under the front actually pretty well. So with the offset rims that I've got, which is a 0, and then with the cut snake flares it covers it, it's perfect. So the flares didn't need to be wild, or I didn't need like flares on flares style thing, like garden edging on these flares, but so it worked out alright. And now, yeah, just confidence off-road, so I can actually do hard tracks. If I need to get a bit of decent run-up to hit something, I can. Like, I'm not worried that I'm going out to break things like I used to do. Like, every full drive, I'll just be worried that something was breaking, and how was I going to get home? So that's pros for now. Go into some cons. There's probably more pros, I've just forgotten them. So a bit of cons with this conversion. the chassis has to be extended. With the body on the chassis, the rear wheels will hit the cab at bump stop no matter what. You can bring the cab forwards, then your front wheels will just hit the cab. So when I did it, I tried to find a happy medium, I couldn't, and then I just cut it, extended it. Like, you can't get around it unless you use extra cab. That's for a dual cab. You get around it using an extra cab, but I don't have an extra cab. The work involved to do it is crazy. Like, I would have spent thousands of hours on it. I pretty much did this right when we went into coronavirus and you weren't allowed to go anywhere. That's when I started this, so it was perfect time to do it. But it was just a week constantly in the shed, late nights, just working on it, just cutting things, cutting brackets, making everything custom. Not like you can just buy an off-the-shelf kit to bolt a Dmax body to a Patrol. So everything was just test fitting, making brackets, make things fit, and then pretty much cut it off, do something different because I had a better idea. So for custom everything as well, that includes steering. So your shaft that comes out of the cab joining up to the Patrol steering box, all that was custom, which the machine shop helped me out with that. All your brake lines, so off your master cylinder down to where your brake lines are on your chassis, they're all custom. Fuel lines are custom because they run on the other side of the chassis compared to Patrol where they run the driver's side, mine now on the passenger side. The front diff was custom because the diff center had to be on the passenger side, whereas on a standard Patrol your diff center's on the driver's side. So that was pretty much strip a whole diff, cut the knuckles off, flip it over, put your knuckles back in, custom mounts back on. It's a massive job. I tried it. Yeah, I could have used it, didn't trust it. I just went and bought one from Ironhide Customs. They flipped one for me and sent it to me, and that's the one I'm running now. I just braced it up. Tail shafts are custom because of the chassis extension, so obviously you need a longer tail shaft. Then the front tail shaft, I just used the Patrol uni that bolts to the Patrol front diff. I got the Isuzu uni that bolts to the transfer case, and just got a custom spline shaft to pretty much join the two together with the length that I needed. The radiator's custom as well, so the Dmax radiator won't fit between a Patrol chassis, and that's because the Patrol chassis is actually skinnier than the Dmax chassis. So I just got a custom radiator that didn't have to be fitted in between the chassis. So I think I'll lose 100 mil, so overall height I'll lose 100 mil, but it sits above the chassis. But then I've also doubled the thickness, so the cooling's the same, it doesn't get hot, it actually barely moves. It's a big 3-core alley radiator from Adrad, so that's also another thing that was custom. And also power steering lines, so the high pressure line mainly from out of your power steering pump on the motor to the steering box, that was just a custom line I got made up from hydraulics joint. Return line's easy, that's just pretty much push on rubber onto fittings, and I run through this power steering cooler at the front and then return back to the reservoir. Another con, limited up travel in the front. So because the sump isn't designed for a solid axle, the tie rod behind the diff actually is in the way of the sump. So that's, you might have seen the previous video where I actually had to bend the tie rod to go under the sump. So under here, don't know if you can see, but that's the tie rod, and then that's my sump. So see where I've got these is because I've bent the tie rod down to clear the sump there. That's still like that at the moment. That is being changed when I get into what I'm doing next, but that's a limiting factor. So I've only got, I think it's only 2 inches of up travel till it hits the hydro. Then I've got 2 inches from the hydro still to go up, so I've got 4 inches of up travel. But 2 inches of basically up travel around town, because when you hit a hydro driving slow, it's solid. Hydro's only good if you hit things real fast or if you jump it. So, but around town it sucks. You always just tap in the hydro and it just, you feel it through the whole car. I actually want to shorten the hydro to a 1 inch travel. So now I've got 3 inches of travel before it hits it, and actually helped me a lot, especially just for road comfort. I'll show you why I'm not going to do that just yet. you need an Isuzu rear diff still because of the speed sensor. So when I ran the patrol rear diff, I had no speedo, no kilometers showing on my dash, no speed, no nothing. So I had to put in that. Well, I didn't have to use an MUX diff. I could have used an Isuzu diff, the one that was out of the Dmax, but I decided to go with MUX because of the disc brakes, really. So you need an Isuzu diff with the little sensors that sit near your brakes, so your speed sensors really. So that's what control your ABS and everything as well. But you need that because that goes to your speedo. There's no speedo input off your gearbox, which I thought there was, and that's the mistake I made, and that's why I had to use a Isuzu diff, and that's why I changed it. And diff widths. So being a GU Patrol, everyone knows they got wide diffs, and because I use an MUX rear diff, but difference is actually only 5mm. So it's not really a con, but they are different width. You can just deal with it, it's 5mm. Alright, future plans, what I'm going to do with this car. So, I have another chassis. I bought another Patrol chassis. I'm basically just going to start again. There's lots of things. Why? There's just little things that just every day that just annoy me. One of them was the hydros hitting all the time, especially on speed bumps around town or a decent little bump. But this is what I'm going to do. So, the front, getting rid of the coil and the shock setup and going to coil over. So, the 10-inch coil over with the dual rate spring, like all in one piece. So I'm going to make a coil over strut mount, weld that to the chassis, and pretty much just bolt in a 10-inch coil over. That's done. Just for the adjustability, so you can adjust your spring rates, you can adjust your valve in, it's easier to do, and yeah, it's just, they're a lot nicer to ride with as well. I'm going to move, the whole cab is going back. So I'm going to move that back, I'm going to say 3 inches, just get it right back. The reason why I'm going to do that is because at the moment the front diff is moved forwards, so the wheels don't hit the front of the cab in the wheel arch. So if I move the whole cab 3 inches back, then basically I've moved it 2 inches back from factory because I've spaced the front diff forwards, so I'll put that back in its original position. And because I do that, I can move the engine back, which means that issue I had with the tie rod hitting the sump should clear then. So where I'm going to put the tie rod will be out of the way of the little hump bit of the sump, so hopefully I don't need to bend another tie rod and I'll just run a straight one. That's the reason why the whole cab's gone back so far, so I can move the motor back. I'll show you that in a sec. So when I move the engine back 3 more inches, it'll actually sit in front of that hump up in this high spot up in there, so that can just be the factory straight tie rod without a bend, because that's not supposed to be bent really. New gearbox, so my manual, this is manual at the moment. My first gear and fourth gear synchro are pretty much shot, like it grinds every time. I'm pretty much just going to run an auto. I want an auto. I was going to look at the 5-speed that these actually come out with, but to put one in with the wiring and all that, it's just way too hard. You've got to pull out basically everything. Every wire in this car's got to come out, because you need to change your ECU, your wiring, your dash, your keys, everything, because that's all just part of it. So I'm going to go 4-speed, older automatic gearbox that the RC Colorados run. So that's the A340. Toyota Hiluxes have the same. I'm going to manualize it. So that's pretty much just manualize it, bolt it in, no electronics. So I'm going to run that. I'm probably going to run just a ratchet shifter as well, just to be cool. On this new chassis, I'm not going to extend it 300mm. So this is extended 300. It is a mission to park, especially around Perth. Like just getting into tight car parks, all that, there's no hope. So I might go a 150 extension. It's basically just got to be enough so the tyres on the back don't hit the cab. Between the differences of a Patrol chassis and the original Dmax chassis was 100mm. So if I extend it 150, I'm only 50mm longer than a normal Dmax. At the moment, I'm 200mm longer than a normal Dmax. And the steering circle is just shocking. I was going to 4-link the rear as well. Instead of the 5-link that it is now, I was going to do a 4-link with airbags. So that way I can just pump like full airbag, like airbag, not airbag assist, like just airbags, no coil. So that way I can just pump them up and down to suit the ride or what load I've got on the back, and the diff's not moving sideways with your height, it's just up and down. So there's no panharder pretty much pulling it sideways for what heights you got. With the 4-link, it'll just move up and down the whole way, no matter what. And the front, I was going to try maybe do a flipped 80 series front radius arms in the front. So it's a lot of cruiser guys do it, and it actually works really well. So I might try it in this. There's not many patrols that do it, and I can see why. It's because the coil mount is in the way of the radius arm if you do that. But because I'm going to a coil over, there'll be no big coil in the way to do that, and the coil over will miss it. So I'm going to try it. I'll get some arms, see if it can work. That'd be good if it did. I'm going to see if it works, because they actually flex really well. So instead of spending like your thousands on superior arms to flex, they're just standard 80 series arms. Just instead of going under the diff, you just flip them on top, and that's really it. So you got good arm angle at ride height. They'll basically be flat from the chassis when you look from sideways, and good flex. And then you can set your caster when you weld your brackets on to make it drive real nice on the road. So there's lots of pros, but it's also a lot of work and something you just got to get right first go. Otherwise you'll be just cutting them off and trying it again. So that's pretty much it. I'll start that new build soon. I'm pretty much just going to use this for summer, and then when it comes to winter again, I don't four-wheel drive as much to go to the beach, I'll start hacking into that other chassis. I've applied through the Department of Transport to actually do it legit and engineer it. So I'm waiting back on them with how they want me to do it, so I can follow their rules, get it legit, and then I'll hit up an engineer, see what they want me to do, and it's going to be a full legit engineered build. So that's going to be good. At the moment I'm not engineered, so I'm just winging it when I drive around. Like, I can get pretty much yellow stickered straight away, but the next build will be engineered and a lot better. This was sort of, I was going to leave it, but it was sort of a trial run. It's not going to be very hard to do a new chassis now, as I've got one to measure off, where before when I built this, it was just started from scratch, started from nothing to measure off, nothing to go off. No one's done it before, but now that I've got it and I know what to change, it won't take as long. So yeah, thanks for that. And I will be finishing the canopy off, which is there. So that's what I'll be doing pretty much up until I start this new chassis. So just be little things like do that canopy, and I'll just pretty much drive it this summer. Find probably some other things I'll hate with it that I'll change on the new chassis. But other than that canopy, it's pretty much finished. Like, yeah, it's done.